We are April and Scott, creators of NaughtyGym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing. Welcome back to the Naughty Gym Show. I'm your host, April, and this is my feral cat co-host, Scott.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Luna Matata's feral shirt.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite shirts that you wear. So today we are going to be talking about fears and insecurities in your relationships and in your lifestyle journey, non-monogamy journey, and how to maybe approach them in a different way or overcome them. But before we do that, I want to talk about a few things that we have coming up. So we have Toronto. Naughty Gym takes over the X Club in Toronto, June 25th through the 28th. You can go to our website, naughtygym.com, under the events tab and get your 4-day weekend pass there at a special discount. It includes your membership. You can get a 1-day pass as well, but you're going to come out much better if you plan on attending more than one day.
Yeah, I think the
4-day pass.
Yeah, I think the 4-day pass costs barely more than a 1-day pass bought on site.
Yeah, that's true. Also on that link, you will get a special X Club rate at the host hotel. There's actually 2 hotels, the Courtyard and the Residence Inn, that are close to the X Club. It's FIFA World Cup and also Pride, Toronto Pride. So go to our website, click the link. You can book your hotel there. You can get the tickets. You can get the full itinerary. We have Luna Matatas, DJ Raw Pulse, Ashley Manta, DJ B Smooth. We've got probably close to 45 to 50 people from our Naughty Gym community that are traveling in. Some live in Canada, some don't. So it's going to be good to see everybody. We've got a boozy brunch one day, and then Pride, and then some workshops and clothing optional pool parties.
Plus the other couple hundred people that are there anyway.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a huge party, great fun.
We've got a Telegram group going right now with all of the people that have purchased tickets. It's already getting super sexy and spicy. So following that, we have Barcelona, which is sold out. Sorry to disappoint, but we have, after that, El Salvador. That's October 12th through the 17th. I think we have 4 rooms left for that. If you're lifestyle adjacent, a part of the LGBTQ community. All of our events are created to help foster friendships and connections and explore the terrain that we're in. So we're going to explore El Salvador. We're going to connect with ourselves. We're going to connect with our partner. We're going to connect with other people. It's just a really beautiful, magical event.
That doesn't mean a lot of sex doesn't happen, because it does, but it's not really the focus of our event. It more or less happens because of the connections and the environment that we put together.
Well, and we actually have an incredibly sexy playroom that we set up, or the resort sets up for us. It's a Moroccan style kind of indoor outdoor play space with low lights, candles and pillows and curtains and fabrics. And it's just very lush and extravagant.
And this place is off the charts beautiful. If you've never been, definitely look at this on our website. It's worth the trip just to see the place.
And then the following month, November, we have 3 events. We have our Wild and Wise Women's Menopause Retreat for any women 21 plus, even if you're postmenopausal. We are going to bring together 30 to 35 women. We bring in sex educators. Luna Matatas will be doing a workshop. Catherine from Expansive Connection and I co-host this together. She'll be doing some workshops on how to navigate maybe shame as you go through menopause, how to be present in your body. We have a functional medicine coach who works as a liaison between patients and doctors, kind of an advocate. So she's going to talk to us about how to advocate for ourselves and what red flags to look for when you're talking to your doctor, because the world of hormones can be very confusing. And I'll be talking about fitness and nutrition. Cheryl with Devious Dragonfly will be catering all of the meals in-house. It's just a really beautiful time to connect with other women, and it's just a sisterhood. It's nice to talk to other women who are like, this is my story. This is what I went through. And that peer input becomes so valuable. Hearing other women's stories and being able to connect and now have a friend that you can bounce things off of and hear their story and they listen to you. It's just a beautiful thing. So, and then you have Mancation Mountain.
Yeah. So at the exact same time in a giant cabin right next door to the women's cabin, the men's retreat will be going on. And this was originally envisioned as a way for guys to get together and just hang out with like-minded guys, because it's hard for us to be exactly who we are, especially if you're in the lifestyle around, let's call them normal people, for lack of a better word. And so we had this last year for the first time, and the expectation was that most of the time would be spent with us just laughing, shooting basketball, playing games, grilling steaks, and drinking whiskey or something. But really what turned into, and we did all of that. But what was amazing is we spent, there was so many conversations and hours of discussion that went on every day that we didn't program. It just happened naturally, because finally us guys were in a place where we could all talk about our shit together. It was an incredible experience and one of the most eye-opening things I've done since I've been in the lifestyle.
And then November 15th through the 20th is more of a party, more of, it's less emotions, maybe, is our holidays, where we celebrate in 5 days. We celebrate 5 holidays. We go Halloween, Friendsgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas, and New Year's Eve. And it is a blast. Every day is themed. Cheryl from Devious Dragonfly is there and does the catering, which is top notch, like 5-star. The food is incredible. But we have parties. We go out and have fun, and it's a really fun time. So I think we may only have 8 spots left for that. We have 14 couples, 8 spots left for that. Incredible time. And then that brings us to Be Better Being Bad in January at Hedonism Resort in Jamaica, full resort takeover. Go to our website. We're not going to go into detail with all of these, but
500 plus people at that event in January in Jamaica.
Yes. Next order of business before we get into the show, and I promise I hate when I listen to a podcast and the first 15 minutes is like advertising and stuff like that, but we are in the process of rebranding. So when we started Naughty Gym in November of 2019 is when we conceptualized it. January of 2020 is when we launched. We chose the name Naughty Gym, naughty as a spin on what society thinks sexuality is as a whole. Mainstream society does not like sexuality. They don't like talking about sex, but we're also fitness oriented. It started as an online fitness and coaching platform. So Naughty Gym just seemed to be a good fit. However, there's a few issues with that. It has grown to be so much more. It has grown into a community. It has grown into retreats, meetups, adventure trips,
education,
a book, a podcast, educational resources. Just yesterday, will you personal train me naked?
Yeah, one-on-one naked coaching.
Yeah, and so I don't do that. Our goal is to connect people. We're connectors. We want to connect people, but we also want people to be as authentic as they can be. And so in an effort to be more authentic as ourselves, we have been working on a rebrand, and we feel like this is the time to do it. And we'll release more details publicly within the next few weeks. But if you want to hear all about it right now, where we're at right now, we actually have a photo shoot on June 16th. I'm super excited about a rebrand photo shoot.
I'm not.
Go to our Patreon, because on our Patreon, we're going to tell them all about it. www.patreon.com/naughtygym. We're going to release all of the details of where we're at in our rebrand. We are going to rename the entity.
It's going to be and sound very different.
It is going to be very different, but it's going to feel
more us.
Yeah. And so we're super excited about it. We're super nervous about it.
April came up with it too. So if you don't like it when you hear it, it's her fault. But it really is
and
good.
You all know I don't care. But
well, and this name that you've picked, I kind of pushed back originally. And the longer we've thought about it and it's sunk in, the better. I just think it's fantastic. And even just things as simple as the color palette that we've chosen seems to better reflect who we are and what we do as a business entity. And we can't wait to share it with everybody.
Yeah. We hope that you'll like it. It just feels so aligned with us. It's a little scary because a rebrand for a business we've been established now for 6 years. Is a difficult process. It's not easy and it's not cheap. We hope you'll be as excited about it as we are. So go to patreon.com/naughtygym if you want to hear more about it right now. Otherwise, you're just going to have to wait a little bit.
All right. And really 30 seconds more, just two last things. They're going to be really quick. We are at the back end of our fundraising effort to purchase the resort in the Tampa area that is already an operating lifestyle resort. If you've been in the lifestyle very long, you already know probably which one we're talking about. We just can't say it publicly. But when that deal closes, April and I will be moving onto the property to help manage the changeover. But if you're interested in that, it is open for investors. It's an incredible investment opportunity. You can reach out to us, email us. We will give you all the information, the pitch deck, all the investors' numbers, all that kind of stuff. Also, our book, Wild Love Theory, another thing we're incredibly excited about, will be launching or becoming available for purchase in September. So keep an eye out for that. Along with the workbook and all this other stuff. Today, we're talking about fears, insecurities, jealousy, kind of some of those, a lot of those negative emotions that come up when we're in the lifestyle, and it really never goes away. There may be more of them when you first start than there are towards, after you've been in it for a while, but they never go away. And we're going to talk about how those things typically get dealt with, and maybe some suggestions for dealing with them in a different way. And we'll give you some tools for that as we go. But first, I want to tell a bit of a story that I got told at our last event in Jamaica at Hedonism. It was in the nude pool at our event called Be Better at Being Bad. It was with somebody that I don't remember their name. If you hear this story and recognize it, feel free to email us and let us know. But we were at the swim up bar in the nude pool, and the husband and I were talking, and he told me this story. And I thought it was very relevant and something that would make a good podcast episode. So what he told me was this. Him and his wife have always been very open-minded, but they never really had much of a discussion of, do we want to open our relationship? Do we want to be non-monogamous? They ended up taking a trip to Desire. And again, they'd never looked up places where you can be naked, never looked up places where you can explore, being intimate with other people. They just wanted to have a fun adventure, and they found a place where you could be clothing optional, thought that sounds fun, and they went. It was the first time they'd ever done anything like this. So they go to Desire on their very first day, which was really only a half day. So they got there and, a little after lunch. They get into a conversation with a couple. The husband who's telling me the story was talking to another wife. His wife was talking to the other husband, but they weren't shoulder to shoulder. There was some distance between them. These were almost like private conversations. And at some point in the middle of those conversations, he looks over the shoulder of the woman he's talking to and sees his wife making out with his other husband. And again, they had not discussed, were things like this on the table? Was this okay? Was it not okay? Nothing. They went into this with no rules, no discussions. And when he noticed his wife making out with the other husband, apparently his facial expression changed. And the wife that he was talking to looked back over her shoulder, saw it happening, and made some comment like, oh, that's adorable. That's awesome. Don't you love that? Blah, blah, blah. Not long after that, his wife and the other man who she had been making out with come back to them across the pool and say, hey, we were talking. Looks like everybody's getting along. Do y'all want to go to the playroom and maybe fool around? All right. So everybody's in on this really except the husband who's telling me this story. And because the other couple was very experienced and his wife had apparently been having these conversations with the other man. But now this husband who's completely new feels a little bit of peer pressure, and his wife is obviously very into this idea. And again, they've had no discussions about it. He doesn't want to seem like the nerd who says no.
As can happen.
Can happen.
That's happened to us.
And so he just says yes. So the four of them leave the pool, head to the playroom. There was not a discussion about boundaries, rules, what everybody was okay with. They just head, and because they didn't even know to have those discussions.
Yeah, right.
They go to the playroom. They get in there. They start fooling around, and they have a full swap again with no discussions, no rules. First time at this place, they have a full swap, and then it's over, and they leave the play session, and they say goodbye to the couple, and they walk back to the room. They get back to the room, and they now start having conversations. His wife, as he's telling me the story, says, "Oh my God, wasn't that awesome? Can you believe we did that? I can't believe we did that. That was incredible. Did you enjoy it?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I think I did, but I don't know. I really struggled when I saw you making out with that guy in the pool, and I struggled seeing you make out with him during the play session." And she said, "But you were making out with the other wife." He goes, "Yeah, but only in the play session." She goes, "Well, what does that matter?" And he said he just saw it happening and felt like he needed to catch up and do it too.
Yeah.
But he was shocked that, given what happened, that the only thing that really bothered him was seeing her kiss.
Right.
Seeing her have sex, give the other guy a blowjob. None of that really seemed to bother me. In fact, he said, "Yeah, I was kind of turned on. There was a little bit of jealousy, but mostly I was just turned on by it." And he told his wife, "But I really struggled with seeing you make out." Well, they continued their conversation and decided that going forward, okay, since we love this and we love the sex, we'll just do the sex and put a rule in place that says no kissing. So they decided to do that. Now, at the time he's having this conversation with me, since the story he told about the first time at Desire, they had been back to Desire several times, had a number of experiences, and this time at Hedo, where he's telling me the story, was their first time at hedonism.
For being better or being bad.
Well, yes, and the first time at hedonism in general.
But that's why he was talking to you.
Yeah. And the reason he was talking to me is because he had heard me give the lecture about wild love theory in one of the keynote addresses and thought it was a relevant conversation to bring up, because he had realized that once they put the rule in place about no kissing, he felt now safe, secure, protected, and he didn't want to he had no thoughts of revisiting that rule ever.
Right.
It's like, all right.
That's our rule. It's there forever.
Yeah. And now I can be safe and proceed on with this non-monogamous life. And he now realized that his wife, he'd always known that she liked that, but he didn't give a fuck. He didn't like it.
It's not that he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's probably a bad way of putting it.
Yeah, he did care, but it made him feel safe, and his wife was willing to concede.
Right. And part of the lecture that he had heard was where we talk about it's something that you want to think about when you are limiting your partner or preventing them from doing something they would like to otherwise be able to do, but they're conceding to not do it in order to soothe your insecurities or fears. So essentially what happens is, and this is very common, we've done it, everybody does it, you farm out your insecurities by buying off a piece of their freedom.
Yeah.
They become slightly less of who they wish they could be in order to soothe your fears and insecurities. Mm-hmm. And so what typically happens is we put a rule in place because we felt that fear and we move on about our business.
Yeah.
Right. And he said, based off what he'd heard in the keynote, that he didn't know that he had done right by his wife because he had never, since that rule went in place, felt the need or desire to work on that insecurity in him, whatever it was that required the rule in the first place.
Well, that happens a lot. I mean, that's happened with us before in our early stages. So when we started, we didn't necessarily have any, we didn't call them rules. We were kind of fumbling our way through, what is this? What is non-monogamy? We had never heard the term lifestyle. And so we started soft swap. And that was, mind you, 3 years into going to our first actual lifestyle event, where we started, okay, we're okay with soft swapping. But there were never any conversations about, well, what's behind this? Like, why are we only okay with soft swap? Or what are the insecurities and fears, and how do we overcome those or heal those traumas or whatever is causing that trigger? We're good with soft swap, and we're just going to do that until we would be like, well, maybe you want to talk about full swap.
And there was no process to get there.
There was no process to get there. And that was scary.
Yeah.
Because it was just kind of like diving in the deep end without knowing how to swim.
Well, and what that story I just told from them is very similar to how we approached our early days in non-monogamy and the rules that we put in place. Mm-hmm. And part of what we're trying to address in wild love theory is this idea that giving your partner the freedom to be who they are and creating a process for being able to get there that also honors and respects the fears and insecurities, right, and jealousies that we deal with in the process.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, for me personally, my jealousies are directly linked to my insecurities. There's a couple things for me that will trigger me or make me want to put a rule in place. Maybe not necessarily a rule, but definitely have a conversation.
But they usually result in a rule, even if they're temporary. Sometimes they're temporary.
Sometimes, right. And this isn't a linear, that's the thing. And we've had people tell us before they thought we had this all figured out. We do not have this all figured out. This is not a linear process. This is an ebb and a flow. Sometimes like waves in the ocean. We're at the beach right now, so it's easy to...
Yeah, by the way, if you can tell from YouTube, we're not in our studio.
We're at our family's home in Gulf Shores, the Redneck Riviera. Anyways, the waves come in and the waves come out, and there's an ebb and flow to it. So there's times where I feel zero jealousy. I feel super secure. I'm not feeling fear. And then there's times where I'm like, what the heck? I'm feeling super jealous. I'm feeling super insecure. I'm feeling not connected. In the life that we live, we have so much going on a lot of the times that, it could be any number of things. I could put a rule on you because I'm not feeling connected to you, because we've been traveling so much. We've been public facing so much that we're doing customer service, April and Scott, and so I hadn't felt like connected to you. And in those times, I will say, like, I want to go to this event because all of my friends are there and I love being in this atmosphere, but I really don't feel like playing with anybody else. I want this to be just about us. Like, this is a sexy environment. I just want to focus on us. I went through a period last year leading up to probably about March of this past year. I think actually in February, when I hired my new coach, I was taking care of so many people and had so many irons in the fire that I wasn't taking care of myself. And so I wasn't feeling sexy. I wasn't feeling confident in my body. I just wasn't feeling myself. When I'm feeling myself and I'm feeling confident and I'm feeling strong and I'm feeling like I'm getting my workouts in and I'm eating the way I'm supposed to be eating and I'm getting enough sleep and my jealousy is almost non-existent. Like, I'm not comparing myself to other people. I feel good. But when I haven't been taking care of myself, my insecurities raise to the top.
Well, and that's an important point to bring up, because sometimes I think, and we've made this mistake of thinking that maybe we reach a point where we seem to get over some particular hurdle, like, oh, we don't feel like this rule we don't need this rule anymore. And so we put it behind us, but then it needs to come back later on. And that's kind of what you're talking about, the ebb and flow. Sometimes a rule needs to come back temporarily because you and I aren't clicking at 100%.
Right.
One of the things you realized, and it became a big part of the book once we realized it, is that isn't, those insecurities, those ebbs and flows can often be because the ongoing problems we have in our relationship is that behind the scenes, you do more than I do. You are more of the admin, make sure the kids get where they're supposed to go, even though they're kind of out of the house now. But the household chores get done the way they're supposed to done. The taxes get paid. The lights are turned on. And a bigger share of the burden of those types of things falls on you. And I've used over the years the excuse that that's because I suck at them. But that's not fair to you. Because we also have a business to run and all these other things. And so sometimes you get feeling overwhelmed when I've dropped the ball on doing my share of the relationship load. When that happens, you don't have the time to sit and think about, oh, I'd like to, that's a couple there I'm very interested in. It's harder for you to get into that sexy space when you can't stop thinking about X, Y, and Z things that need to get done.
Right. Well, for example, this I guess starting in April, our travel season started, where we were like, we've got trip after trip after trip after trip until January of next year. It's like one thing after another. Literally, we'll be home, like we're on a family trip right now. We'll be home for a week. We go to Toronto. We're home for a day or two. We go on another trip. We're home for a couple of weeks. We go to Barcelona. I mean, it's just trip after trip. And so because I do handle the admin side of it, I am also doing a lot of the planning and executing of the logistics of those trips and the home life and a child going to college and a grandbaby on the way and another grandbaby. And so there is a lot.
And before the bulk of our travel season started, I had been making, I think you would agree, some headway into rebalancing that load of all the work that needed to be done. And then the travel season has kicked in full swing, and I've sort of dropped back off again. I'm not willing to admit that I've dropped back to where I was, but I have not been doing as good a job as I was. I'm not making the progress that I was. I even had hired a coach, a therapist that works on this type of issue where one person does more than the other to help me see it for what it was.
Right.
So I've been making progress. And then we get in the middle of the travel season and I let that become an excuse to kind of go, okay, I can't really work on all this right now because we got all these trips.
Right.
And in the middle of that, the drawback is you feel overwhelmed and exhausted, and you're just not feeling as sexy as you would otherwise feel. So we bring all of that up to say we cover that stuff in the book, but to also say that just because you get over a rule today doesn't mean you're going to be over that rule tomorrow. Right. So don't feel bad if a monster that you feel like you've conquered rears its head later on down the road. It happens.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to give you a couple tools today that we think might help. We're going to highlight one thing that we think is the typical pattern that we see. I'm going to go through that. And then April's going to go through the maybe the better way of approaching these things. All right. And these are in the workbook for Wild Love Theory. That's also going to be coming out, but so it's not in the main book. But the first one that I'm going to talk about is it's an acronym. Both of these are acronyms. The first one that I'm covering is called the RULE. RULE. And this is more of the typical pattern you'll see. It's very reminiscent of the story that I told at the start of the podcast. RULE, the R stands for you react to the trigger. Okay. Pretty typical. Something happens in this non-monogamous journey that is uncomfortable. It triggers jealousy or, a fear or insecurity or something that is a negative emotion, and we react to that trigger. All right. Maybe the partner flirts with someone. Maybe they play with someone you feel insecure around. Maybe they've texted someone after an event and you didn't know they were going to do that, or you didn't maybe give them permission to do that. Maybe they want to repeat this great experience that they had with somebody. They want to repeat it again. Maybe they're attracted to someone who's very different from you. Their personality is very different. Their body type is very different. And that triggers some sort of insecurity or jealousy.
And all of those things I think are normal. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. I've felt several of those things. There's been times where I've seen you be attracted to a woman who looked vastly different than me, which is the whole point of this is...
Well, maybe not the whole point.
Not the whole point, but I can't be your end all be all. I can't be 5'1" and 125 pound spinner girl.
You can't be every body type and every personality type, even though you might be my favorite.
Right. But so I think that's, I don't want to say normal, but I think that's common for somebody to be triggered by, especially so when I'm not feeling confident in my body and you are into this girl who's 5'1" and 90 pounds. I'm like, I can never be that. That must be what he's into. Well, that isn't true necessarily.
Right. And we're going to get to that story that we put, but that's the reaction. That's a typical reaction. I have them, you have them.
Right.
And it may sound something like, hey, I don't like this, or this feels unsafe. I never want to feel this again. We have those emotions and those are real and they're genuine and they need to be handled with care. But most rules are born in a moment where someone gets scared or feels insecure and their nervous system flares up like this. And we want to do something in that moment to make sure this never happens again. Mm-hmm. And that's normal. That's the reaction to the trigger. Right? That's the R, the reaction. All right. The next one, and this is RULE is the acronym. So U is next. And that's typically when that happens, this reaction happens, we unpack the pain. That's the U, the unpacking. All right, we unpack the pain. What happens is we have these difficult conversations. We go back to the room after an experience and start to unpack it. Sometimes this goes well. Sometimes it gets heated. Mm-hmm. We can get into arguments, or we can have very, very difficult conversations. And often in those situations, not every time, but often one person is hurting while the other one is just trying to manage that hurt.
Right.
They're the one that did the thing.
Hopefully not trying to defend themselves.
Right. And the idea that we have in these situations, kind of the hidden logic, is that I'm hurt, so something needs to be prohibited.
Yeah.
Right. And pain does deserve care. When we're hurting, that pain deserves care. We can't be dismissive of it. Your partner needs to handle that situation gently, lovingly, and with care. But pain is not always a great policy expert.
Right. But it goes back to when my therapist had told me, when something hurts, say, ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch, that hurt. Like a kid in a sandbox. When they throw sand at another kid, the other kid doesn't ruminate on it for the next 3 hours and like, why did he do that? Why did he throw sand at me? That kid says, ouch, that hurt. And she told me, she was like, when something hurts, I want you to say it immediately. Ouch, that hurt. Yeah. And identify what that pain is, and express it instead of creating a narrative around it.
And there's a great, you tell a great story in the book about that very thing, which is one of the most impactful and powerful parts of the book. But that's the unpacking of that pain. And that's typical and normal and needed. Yeah. So we react, then we unpack. And then the next one, the L, is we tend to then limit the behavior. That's the L, we limit. All right. So a new rule typically is created to prevent that same discomfort from happening again. We react to the trigger, we unpack it, figure out what was happening, and then we say, all right, I don't want that to happen again. So we're going to limit whatever caused that from happening again. Maybe it's, no texting or no solo dates or no repeat partners, no separate rooms, no kissing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We're going to limit the thing that caused the pain from happening again. And we're not saying that that's wrong. In fact, in wild love theory, we call that kind of rule scaffolding. Yeah. Used in a healthy way, it's scaffolding, which in construction processes, scaffolding is necessary to help build the building, to build the structure you're trying to build. But scaffolding is not meant to be permanent.
Right.
It has a temporary use. It's necessary and it's good, but ideally it eventually comes
It's not
down.
meant to be permanent.
But the danger is that these rules that we put in place, like the guy that had the conversation with me at the pool, can be assumed to be permanent.
Yeah. Well, it gets comfortable because then you don't have to deal with what's underlying, which is hard. That's much harder. It's much easier to put a rule in place and keep it there permanently than to face the actual issue and unearth it. That's a lot more emotional. That's a lot harder. It's a lot more dysregulating. It may take therapy. It may take it, and it may be a much longer process.
Well, because the rule may stop the trigger. It may stop what caused the reaction.
Right.
But it doesn't ever get to the underlying fear or insecurity.
Yeah.
It's a Band-Aid. It's scaffolding. Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So that's the L. We limit. Right. Last one is E in this acronym of rule, and that's that we enforce the new rule. Mm-hmm. Right. So we've put that rule in place, the limit in place, and now the rule just becomes part of the relationship. So now when we're in these environments, the conversation shifts from, when we have something come up, was what is this fear touching? What is the insecurity that it's hitting on? Instead of that question, what we're doing is going, well, you knew the rule.
Yeah.
We made a rule. You know what the rule is.
Keep it.
I don't have to really deal with my shit that caused the rule. Just make sure you keep the rule in place and you abide by it.
Make me feel safe.
And again, that's not always bad as long as it is temporary and you're working on the underneath part that caused the need for the rule in the first place. Well, once a rule is in place, it can become very difficult to revisit it, because questioning that rule can sometimes feel like you're questioning that person's pain.
Yeah.
Like if that rule was put in place to alleviate a pain that we felt a month, 6 months down the road, if you bring that back up, it's almost as if you're going, well, hey, that rule, that pain you experienced was stupid. I don't want this rule anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's not the point, but all of these rules that are meant to essentially cover or put a Band-Aid over our pain by buying off a piece of your partner's true freedom, true who they truly are, is a Band-Aid fix that we need to readdress again. So it needs to be able to come back up. And so once fear becomes a rule, questioning that rule start to feel like you're questioning the pain that created, and that can be problematic. But that is the typical format that we have. We have the trigger. We end up putting a rule in place, and we leave it in place because it gave us some relief in that moment.
Yeah.
All right. So just to kind of wrap this whole rule acronym, RULE, up, it stands for R is the react to the trigger, and U is the unpacking the pain. L is limiting the behavior, and then E becomes enforcing the new limit or rule that we put in place. We're not saying that is a bad thing. It's something that we use pretty regularly, especially in the early part of our journey. But what we want to warn against is that shouldn't become the ideal format. That is a temporary solution to a problem, because what that does is it treats the triggering event as the problem instead of the underlying cause of the trigger.
Right. What we think and have come up with it is in our workbook, Wildlove Theory workbook, is the FREE framework, FREE. So the FREE framework is a way to process fear, jealousy, and insecurities without automatically turning those feelings into a permanent rule. So it doesn't shame fear. It doesn't ignore pain. And it doesn't mean that couples should never have agreements. Instead, it's going to shift the focus from restriction to capacity, which is something that I have been working diligently on, is building capacity. And the question becomes, what can we understand, care for, and build so that fear no longer has to be in charge? I know for me, I have made it one of my life guideposts to not let fear rule or govern me. So in the FREE framework, the F stands for find the real fear. So most people think that they're asking for a rule, but what they're often expressing is a deeper insecurity or a fear. So no solo dates might actually mean I'm afraid that I'm going to be abandoned. No texting might be I'm afraid that I don't know what's happening. Like I'm going to be left out of the loop. No repeat partners. We've heard that before, where you can only go on a date with another person one or two times,
or play
with the same person one or two times because you don't want them to get so connected. And that might really mean I'm afraid that I'm going to be replaced. So before we make a rule, we need to find the fear that rule is trying to protect, or that insecurity or that jealousy or whatever it is that rule is trying to protect. F is for find the real fear. R is re-examine the story. Fear doesn't just create a feeling. It creates a story. But the story may sound like they want her. He wants her, so he doesn't want me. Or he wants me less. He had more fun with her or him, so I'm not enough. She's attracted to that body type, and so she must not really like my body type, which is something that I've struggled with. When I see you attracted to somebody that looks vastly different than me.
Yeah, it's
the
strange.
Story I tell myself can be, well, it must be because he's not attracted to me.
Yeah, you have this incredible body. You've been told that a million times. You know, you've competed in figure competitions, but it is a powerful athletic body. What it is not is a dainty little petite body.
Right.
And for some reason, you have got it in your head that maybe not that I prefer that body type, but that is a body type I like that you can never be. Kind of like my insecurity of not being, I'm 5'10", you're
Right.
5'8", I'm barely taller than you. When you put heels on, you're taller than me. And so like the guy you've gone on dates with, or two guys you've gone on a date with have been 6'5", 6'6", I don't know, super tall. That was a big insecurity of mine for a long time. It doesn't really have that power as much anymore over me, but it's not just because you are attracted to somebody that means it's your preferred or only type that you could be attracted to a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
It's still hard though.
Right. Well, and that's why R is for re-examine that story. I have to re-examine that story. What is the fear actually under that? It goes back to my childhood when I had eating disorders and body dysmorphia and all of this stuff. I grew up in the time where I was reading Cosmo magazine, and Kate Moss was the epitome of sexiness, and she was stick skinny, and I was never that. I could never be that. I got in my head that is what beauty is, and I could not be happy unless I achieved that. And I was not worthy of love or attention unless I had that. I have to go back and re-examine that story intentionally to see what is that coming from.
Yeah, because our body will almost instantly make a story every time we have a triggering moment.
Right.
And the story is often bullshit, and we have to take our time to, when we're regulated then, and get some distance from that event, to think that story through and go, all right, what's really happening? Yeah,
that story is not necessarily the truth. But feelings also deserve compassion, but the stories have to be examined.
Yeah.
And that story is not necessarily your fault, but it still needs to be re-examined before it becomes a rule. So R, re-examine the story. The third step is E, express the need without control. This is another one that's been difficult for me because I like to control what I can, because that gives me the illusion of being able to control the chaos. So express the need without control. Once you've identified the fear and questioned the story, now you need to express what you need. And control says, you can't do that again. Care says, I'm feeling insecure and I need reassurance that I'm still desired and chosen. In fact, we had an incident this year where I was telling myself a story that wasn't true, when what I actually needed to say was, I am not feeling connected to you. I'm not feeling chosen. I am not feeling desired. But I didn't say that at first. It took a whole lot of mess.
Isn't it? It's so,
a whole lot of messiness.
It's so hard for us to just have a triggering moment and go,
right.
hey, I'm triggered. I'm feeling jealous, whatever. And it's my insecurity. And here's what my insecurity is. In that moment, the only thing we want to do is blame the other person.
Right. Why didn't you do this? Or
Yeah.
why couldn't you see this? Or you should have known. Right. So control says you need to stop talking to them. Care says, I'm feeling a little bit shaky and I need us to reconnect tonight. Fear always deserves care, but care does not always require control.
Ooh, that's good.
Finally, the last E in free is expand capacity, which is not always the easiest thing to do. This might be where the real work is done in building that capacity. And in our book, I think I write about that in several chapters. This is the long-term work. This is the foundational work that is really going to help your relationship thrive, but also you as a person, help you be more authentic with yourself, and help you be more satisfied with your decisions. So capacity is your ability to stay connected, honest, grounded, and self-respecting in situations that used to overwhelm you. So expanding capacity might mean you're learning emotional regulation, you're practicing reassurance rituals, you're building body confidence, you're working with a therapist or a coach, which I highly suggest working with a therapist or a coach. Expansive connection coaching is fantastic for this. But then there's also things like Luna Matatas offers body confidence, and body neutrality and owning your body courses. There's so many people that you can work with. Repairing conflict more quickly or learning to separate fear from actual danger. This is what keeps temporary rules from becoming permanent cages. And our goal with Wild Love Theory is to not cage each other. You can cage your partner without even knowingly doing it, willingly doing it. You're just doing that out of a automatic central nervous system reaction. Like you get triggered, your fight or flight response activates, and this is just how you react. And that feels comfortable. Like, I'm going to put a rule in place. It feels safe. I'm good. I can breathe. My heart rate's going down. I'm good. There's a rule in place. Never address it again. But a temporary agreement can also be loving. It can be scaffolding while people grow. And we talk about scaffolding is not meant to be permanent. But if nobody is expanding their capacity, the relationship is going to stay frozen at the level of fear. And I want to say this also. There are people who have such high degrees of trauma or PTSD that they may never be able to remove some rules from their partner.
Yeah, not all of them.
And that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. Hopefully you have a partner who is loving and caring and empathetic enough and compassionate enough to go, you know what? I can see that you've been working on this. You're in therapy. You're taking the steps to heal yourself. I'm okay with this rule because I can see that how much pain this is causing you. And that is okay. That we're not saying the goal is to remove all rules.
And we're also not saying that if you have rules in place, rules on your partner that are things that they would like to be able to do, but you're telling them they can't. It also doesn't mean that you have to commit to working on relieving the insecurity that caused that rule for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because it's not worth that. If it's going to take 5 years of nonstop, it's just not probably worth it.
Well, and we've done that where I've said, look, we tried a 30 days of no rules. You have no rules on me. We tried a 30 days, no rules on Scott. I did not have the capacity for that. And you saw that. Mm-hmm. And we were like, let's pause. Like,
not the time yet.
There are times where our life is so hectic, where then adding on, let's do additional therapy and let's do all this other stuff. I'm like, I just want to take a deep breath and maybe do some yoga and like read a book about guys fucking people.
Play some pickleball.
Yeah, like, let me just chill, dude. At its core, the difference is simple. Rule asks, RULE, which you went over, asks, what can we prohibit so this feeling doesn't happen again? Free, FREE, asks, what can we understand, care for, and build so fear no longer has to be in charge? So I do want to emphasize the word care for.
Yes.
This is implying that both partners, the one who is being limited, that partner also has such care and compassion for the partner who needs these rules so that they have the time to build capacity if they can, and has the care and love and compassion for their partner if they never can build that capacity. That there's never shame or I let you do this. How come you can't let me do this? There's never a tit for a tat. There's never a scorekeeping. There's never you like using it as leverage.
Yeah, because the worst thing that can possibly happen in a relationship, way worse than your partner putting a rule on you, is you weaponizing this idea of the desire for freedom.
Right.
If you say, yeah, I realize you don't want me kissing, but that's just you taking my freedom away from me. Well, now you've just become an asshole.
Right.
Because most of the time people don't want to have these rules. They want to have the rule because they don't want to experience the pain, but they would ultimately not have to have the rule.
Right.
And they're working to try to make themselves a better partner for you, and for you to just step in and say, well, you're just taking my freedom away from me. That's not care that we keep talking about. That's just you being a jerk.
Right.
Right.
So fear is not the enemy. Jealousy is not failure. Insecurity doesn't mean that you're broken. Those are normal human things. But those feelings shouldn't automatically become the architect of your relationship. So sometimes rules help. Sometimes limits are necessary. Sometimes couples need that scaffolding. But the goal is not to build enough rules so that no one ever gets scared or gets jealous or feels insecure. The goal is to build enough capacity that fear no longer has to run the relationship.
Yeah, that's a great way to end, I think. And this stuff has become critically important to us. We talk about it a lot in our private conversations. Of course, we've written a book that comes out in September, but it's become so important. It's become kind of the focus and why we're doing this big rebrand. And if you're interested in hearing more about this rebrand, go and sign up for our Patreon account, because we're about to flip over there and talk about it a little more in depth.
Yeah. Yes. If you want to hear more about the rebrand, go to patreon.com/Naughty Gym. And we're going to go in depth about what our rebrand is, the new name, why we're doing the rebrand, and what the future of Naughty Gym is.
And in the meantime, if you want to be a part of our community as it is now, you can go to our Naughty Gym website. You'll find the link to go to our community and sign up. And you'll probably have some perks if you're a member now prior to the rebrand.
Yeah. So naughtygym.com if you want to check it out. Otherwise, remember to never stop playing.